Good day everyone, so welcome back again to our subject, Practical Research 2. And I am your Peer 2 instructor again, Sir Kevin. Come on, let us study the new lesson for today. So for today, we're gonna be talking about on how we choose appropriate research design. Come on. First, we have descriptive design. This describes a particular phenomenon or relationship within a single group sample. This cannot be used to explain causations like why. It can only be used to determine who and what, and it also uses basic statistical procedures. And here are the examples. Descriptive survey, na kung saan magkakadak ng survey ang mga students kung ano yung preferred menu nila sa school canteen. Magpa-provide din sila ng Likert scale kung sila ba ay satisfied, unsatisfied, or ito ba ay poor or outstanding. Next example, we have the descriptive normative. So, i-assess lang ng mga researchers kung ano yung results na meron yung 2020 ng civil service exam sa dati na year, which is the 2019. So, to determine rate of increase and decrease of passers. Second, correlational design. It aims to establish a relationship between two variables. It commonly uses Pearson, but Kendall and Spearman tools may also be used in treating data to determine a positive, negative, or no correlation. It cannot explain causation of one variable to another. Here are the examples. Using naturalistic surveying or observation, okay, so we have determining if the weather each week relates to the attendance of employees at the local factory. Variable X is equivalent to average temperature, while variable Y is equivalent to the total attendance per week. Dito malalaman natin kung may relationship ba yung dalawang variables. Kung may relationship ba yung weather sa pagpasok ng mga employees kada week. Titingnan natin kung meron ba silang significant relationship or wala. Next, finding out if socioeconomic status correlates to the performance ratings of college students from 2001 to 2015 at Bicol University. So, we're gonna use archival data. So, kailangan malalaman natin pala yung annual income ng tax records kung ito ba ay may relationship doon sa academic performance ng mga college student. So, yung financial ba ay nakaka-apekto sa kanilang grades. So, that's the relationship between the two variables. Evaluation design. It assesses the effects, impacts, and outcomes of practices, programs, and implemented policies. It uses the simplest to the most complex statistical tools depending on the needs. As a form of applied research, evaluation researchers are done in established organizations as a way to improve operations, sales, and productivity. Here are the examples. First, we have the survey evaluation. Conducting a survey to customers of a restaurant using the Likert scale to rate satisfaction on food, service, comfortability, and cleanliness. Dito, magko-conduct yung researcher ng isang survey sa mga customers ng isang restaurant para makita kung ano yung improvement ng operation, sales, and productivity ng kanilang restaurant using the Likert scale. Yung Likert scale, for example, ito ay merong very satisfactory, unsatisfactory, or poor. Next, we have the observational evaluation. Routinely monitoring of compliance of students to school policies like no ID, no entry, and daily attendance checkpoint. Dito gagamitin ng researcher ang daily attendance checkpoint para malaman kung ilan yung mga students na sumunod sa policy ng school at ang mga researcher ay mag-observe lang sila. And that's the observational evaluation. The casual comparative design. derives conclusions from observations and manifestations that already occurred in the past. It uses basic statistical tools like measures of central tendency, ANOVA, etc. It also uses classification and categorization in establishing the pre-existing traits. For example, exploration of cause. Researching about people's language subjects' performance ratings and comparing to their present linguistic ability. So, para malaman kung ano yung dahilan ng kanilang linguistic ability, kung bakit ganito ang kanilang linguistic ability ay magkakonduct sila ng isang language communication assessment dahil para malaman yung dahilan sa kanilang performance ratings nung sila ay high school at college student. Next, we have the exploration of effect. Kung kanina hinahanap natin yung dahilan, dito naman hinahanap kung ano yung epekto. So, determining the organizational effects of poor attendance of employees in the Kabuyaw office of DTI. So, merong poor attendance, and then paano kaya kapag poor attendance yung ang mga employees sa Kabuyaw office, ano yung mga effect nito. Next, we have the exploration of consequence, comparing the speed and accuracy ratings of two classes that were having unique modes of learning how to solve trigonometric functions. So, in this case, ang meron dalawang group na ginamit for consequence, titignan kung ano yung speed and accuracy ng dalawang klase, ng dalawang group na ito na merong unique modes of learning para ma-solve yung trigonometric functions. Experimental design. The researcher will manipulate the independent variables in order to gain results from the dependent variables of the subject. It may be done in laboratory, conventional science laboratory, or any place that is isolated like a classroom. Or in the field, same testing done in different places. It has to have at least one control group and experimental group. Here are the examples. Laboratory experiment. Testing the muscle growth of 20-year-old men. Task 2. So, merong dalawang experimental group at dalawang control group. Yung unang, doon sa experimental group, may dalawang lalaki. Yung isa, magtitake siya ng anabolic steroids pero wala siyang workouts. Yung isa naman, may workouts pero hindi siya magtitake. May regular workout siya. And then, magtitake din siya ng anabolic steroids. While yung sa control group naman, dalawa. So, yung isa, dalawa ding lalaki. Yung isa, wala siyang take ng steroids pero meron siyang regular workouts. Yung isa naman, walang steroids, wala ding siyang regular workouts. So, yung control variable at yung experimental variable, i-compare yung dalawa kung meron silang differences. Next, yung field experiment naman. So, applying a proposed cost-cutting system for the Department of Education on schools from different divisions or districts to determine either similar or different outcomes. So, ito yung proposed cost-cutting system naman. So, yung DepEd magpo-propose sila ng ditong system na to sa different districts or divisions na kung saan titignan nila kung meron bang pagkakaiba or meron bang pagkakatulad yung outcome sa bawat division. So, that's experimental design. In order to understand experimental design, we're going to be talking about the differences between treatment group and control group. First, we have the treatment group. It's used to isolate the effects to the subjects by means of control. This group will receive the treatment. That's why it is called the experimental group. The researchers usually apply the treatments in different amounts or levels, and this act is the manipulation of the independent variable itself. While control group, it has no treatment. Last, pretest and post-test experimental design. According to Shuttleworth, this is a method to compare participant groups and measure the degree of change occurring as a result of treatments or interventions. For example, assume you are to test if a visual approach in learning the basics of Spanish language. So you have to set two groups, the section A and the section B, and apply the treatment to the latter. So the control group will be the section A because the subject will be in the conventional way in a classroom setting with the teacher discussing it. While the section B, this has the experiment. So section B will be the treatment group. So it will take the subject through interactive videos instead. The pretest is a test that you will give to both groups. So yung pretest ibibigay mo dun sa dalawang groups at ang pretest na to ay diagnostic test before proceeding to the learning process itself, and you are to record their test results. So yung pretest na yon as diagnostic test ibibigay mo muna sa kanila bago sila mag-start ng klase. Say the process takes a whole semester to finish. You will have to give the post-test afterwards to assess the results of the intervention. So after the whole semester, tsaka mo naman ibibigay yung post-test as their summative test. Ngayon, yung pretest ba ay may differences doon sa post-test na kung saan itong diagnostic tsaka yung summative ay may pagkakaiba yung dalawa sa dalawang section na yon. Dahil sa dalawang section na yon, yung isa ay conventional way lang, yung isa naman meron siyang interactive videos. Ang independent variable dito ay ang paggamit ng interactive videos, yung paggamit ng modes of learning, and then yung dependent variable naman ay yung test scores nila. And that's pretest and post-test experimental design. This time, I'm going to show you on how to write research design. So these steps are from CHUA 2017. First, so we have to know what is our general methodology. So based on the question number 1, what is the general methodology or research design do you intend to utilize in your proposed study? So what will be your methodology? Is it quantitative or qualitative? So quantitative is the chosen methodology. So since the research question we seek to answer lead to numerical data, because quantitative has the numerical data while qualitative has the narrative data. Second question, why did you choose this research design? So specifically, the study is correlational as it aims to determine if there is an association between senior high school students' use of social media and their attention span in class, and assess whether the degree of association between these variables is significant. So ibig sabihin, dito pinaliwanag kung bakit etong design na to yung pinili, dahil since ito ay correlational, hinahanap yung dalawang relationship. Pag hinahanap mo yung dalawang relationship with statistical treatment, that's quantitative research. Next, what specific type of research design will you use? Sabi nga doon sa pangalawang paragraph, ang ginamit ay ang correlation research. Since ito ay correlation, so you have to know the definition of correlation, since kapag hindi galing sa'yo ang information or reference, kailangan meron tayong proper citation. So ang ginamit ditong citation ay author-oriented, so the surname of those author and the year of publication, and then define kung anong ibig sabihin ng correlation research. And then fourth, we have why did you choose this specific methodology? So another explanation kung bakit yung specific methodology ang pinili mo na correlation. Okay, so as you can see, lahat ng tanong ay nasagot doon sa paragraph. So that is your research design. This time, I'm gonna help you on how to describe sampling procedure. Come on. As you can see, we have here a circle, and the circle has 3 colors. The first color is the largest one, which is orange. So it is referring to the population. So this is a group of individuals who have the same characteristic. For example, the population will be the senior high school students. So since the senior high school students are too many, so we should have the target population only. A group of individuals with some common defining characteristics that the researcher can identify and study. So we have to choose the senior high school students of St. Ignatius only. So we have, for example, the School of St. Ignatius have a total number of 3,000 target population. but the 3,000 target population is too many, so we should have the sample size or the subgroup of the target population that this researcher plans to study for generalizing about the target population. So we should have, for example, the 10% or 5% margin of error from the target population. So we have the it will narrow down it into a number size. It's a smaller size number from the target population. This time, we're going to be talking about the sampling techniques probability from Chua. First, we have the simple random sampling, drawing randomly from a list of the population. So, example, names from a hat using a matrix of random numbers. Let's say meron tayong 12 people or 12 students as our population. Tapos, ilalagay natin siya sa hat. So, lalagay natin siya sa sombrero. Ayan, yung apat na yan. Tapos, itong 12 na respondents na, population na ito, ay lalagay natin yung mga names niya doon sa hat. Tapos, bubunot tayo ng apat. Ang apat ang ating sample size. So, 4 people ang ating sample size. So, 4 people ang bubunutin natin dito sa 12 na ating population. So, that's simple random sampling. So, ibig sabihin, merong equal chance or equal opportunity na ang bawat student dito sa loob ng classroom na 12 population ay equal chance or equal opportunity na sila ay mabubunot. Next, we have the systematic sampling. So, systematic sampling, meron siyang formula. K equals the population over the sample size. Yung N ang N equivalent nito ay ang sample size na itong maliit and then yung malaki ay ito yung population. So, taking every each element in the population as a sample. So, ito yon. Nakita natin na meron tayong population na 12 people. So, 12 people over yung 4 na ating sample size. So, meron tayong 3. So, every third, so ang sagot natin ay 3. So, every third ng ating population yun ang kukunin natin as sample. So, inuna muna natin yung second. So, dito kasi systematic sampling, unahin natin yung second. After ng second, magkakaroon tayo, lahat ng third after ng second, yun ang kukunin natin sa sample size. So, etong second, and then 1, 2, 3. So, this the third. So, kunin natin siya. So, another 1, 2, 3. So, third ulit, and then 1, 2, 3. And so, third. So, we have the 4 people as our sample. Next, we have the stratified random sampling. So, this is a process in which certain subgroups or strata are selected for the sample in the same proportion as they exist in the population. So, ito, base dun sa kanyang, sa pangalan niya na stratified, so stratified the population into different groups. It increases representativeness of our sample. So, ibig sabihin, kukuha tayo ng representative sa bawat grupo. So, for example, merong 12 na population. So, sa 12 na population, nakita naman natin dito, ang bilang ng population ay 12. So, sa 12 na population na yan, sa bawat group na nakuha natin, sa bawat strata, bigyan natin ng pen. So, eto yung dun sa atin. For example, eto ay ABM, yung blue. Tapos, etong ICT, yung eto. So, lagyan natin ABM, for example, eto. Yan. So, eto ay ICT. Tapos, eto, for example, ay Humes. So, ayan. So, meron tayong tatlong grupo. Sa bawat bilang ng grupo, ay meron tayong dito 3 na individual sa unang grupo, sa unang strata, yun, or subgroup, and then we have here 6 individuals, and then sa Humes merong 3. So, meron tayong sample na 4 lang. So, paano natin siya makukuha? So, kukuha tayo ng bilang sa bawat grupo. So, ang population natin ay 12. Ayan. So, kunin natin yung bilang, nandun muna tayo sa ABM. Ang bilang ng ABM ay 3 lang. Ayan. Tapos, lagay natin dito. So, ilan yung ating sample? So, meron lang dapat tayong 4 na makukuha. And then, lagay natin dito X. So, cross multiplication. So, meron tayong 12 over 12. So we have the 12x. Okay, so since meron na tayo nan, okay, so ang sagot ay 1. So isa lang ang kukunin natin dito sa ABM. That's why meron lang siya dito na ayan yung isang individual. Yan. Next we have the ICT. So sa ICT meron tayong 6 individuals and then 12. Ayan. So lagay ulit natin yung ating, and that was 4 sample, and then cross multiplication lang. So we have 24 yan over 12. Okay, so 12x. Okay, so cancel lang ulit natin, and then we have 2. So, dalawa ang kukunin natin sa ICT. So, yung Humes natin, katulad lang nung ABM, so, bali 3 siya, ang kukunin lang natin dyan, isa. So, kapag mas maliit yung nasa subgroup, mas maliit yung kukunin natin na sample. Tapos, kapag mas malaki, syempre, mas malaking kukunin natin na sample. So, ito ay nakadepende sa bawat strata or subgroup. Okay. So, next, we have, so, okay, so, burahin lang natin to. Burahin lang natin. Okay, so next sampling ay meron tayong cluster sampling. Ang cluster sampling ay katulad lang din ng stratified. Pero dito hindi na tayo kukuha ng sample ng representative sa bawat grupo. So meron tayo ditong grupo na 6. For example, itong una ay ABM, itong pangalawa ay ICT, itong pangatlo ay Humes, itong pang-apat ay HE, tapos meron tayo ditong gas at meron tayong STEM. Ngayon, ang kukunin lang natin na grupo ay 2 lang. Kukuha na tayo ng 2 grupo. Ang kukunin natin ay Humes at kukunin natin ay STEM. So, Humes at STEM lang kukuha na natin. Convenience sampling. Ito ay isang kind ng non-probability sampling, is selecting a group of individuals who are conveniently available for the study. So, ibig sabihin, kung sino lang yung available na respondents doon, sila lang yung kukuhanan mo ng survey. So, for example, sa isang milk tea shop, kung sino lang yung laging pumapasok doon, sino na available, sila lang yung kukuhanan mo ng survey. Next, we have the quota sampling. Ang quota sampling naman, ay non-probability sampling din. So, the number of samples is decided by the researcher and selection is also made out of availability of the respondents. So, availability din yung hinahanap. So, sino lang din yung availability. So, for example, ang kailangan mong mga respondents ay part ng LGBT community. So, lalabas ka ngayon ng bahay tapos hahanap ka, for example, sa barangay ninyo na part ng LGBT. Meron kang nakita na 4 na gay at meron kang nakita na 6 na lesbian. So, sabihin na natin na 10 ang nakita mo. So, ulitin na natin. Meron kang nakitang 4 na gay at tapos meron kang nakitang 6 na lesbian. So, meron ka dapat 100% ang makita mo. So, 50-50 silang dalawa. So, ano ba yung kalahati ng 4? So, 2 ang interviewin mo na gay, tapos 3 ang na-interviewin mo na lesbian. Kasi 50% lang dito at 50% lang dito din sa 6. So, 2 gay interviewin mo dahil yun ang available lang din, tapos 3 lesbian interviewin mo. And that's quota sampling dahil ito lang yung quota. So last, we have the purposive sampling and the snowball sampling. Sabi dito, ang purposive sampling ay using researchers' judgment to select a sample that they believe, based on prior information, will provide the data they need. Yung purposive sampling, ikaw mismo as a researcher, ikaw yung pipili kung sino lang yung fit sa study mo. So, for example, sa isang school, ang respondents mo ay yung mga teachers, tapos ang kailangan mo lang ay yung mga nasa 1 decade na yung experience sila sa pagiging teacher. So, meron silang 10 years of of teaching na. So syempre hindi mo na kukunin yung mga bagong teacher lang. So mamimili ka kung sino na yung mga yon. Kumbaga ikaw na yung mismo pipili as a teacher kung sino yung as a researcher pala, ikaw yung pipili dun sa mga teachers na meron 10 years of teaching na. So bali yun lang yung kukunin mo. So next we have the snowball sampling. So one sample leads on to more of the same kind of sample. So for example, ikaw sa researcher, ang kukunin mo ay part ng LGBT community. So ikaw sa researcher, kukunin mo siya as your as your respondents, tapos siya mismo maghahanap siya, yung respondents na hinanap mo, siya yung maghahanap ng another respondent. So siya yung maghahanap ng member ng LGBTQ pa. Tapos yung nakita niyang LGBTQ, maghahanap din, magre-refer din ng respondent. So that's snowball. So this is how we must write the sample, the paragraph. So as you can see in the first paragraph, we have the senior high school student. So it must be specific, and academic year must be included just to make it more valid and reliable. Specific, so include the school. Tapos yung ilan yung mga strands, ano yung mga strands included doon sa iyong population. And then ilagay kung ano yung population size na nakuha mula doon sa Slovin's formula na nagamit natin. Determining the sample size. So to determine the sample size, so there are a few guidelines that we would suggest with regard to the minimum number of subjects needed. For descriptive studies, we think a sample with a minimum number of 100 is essential. So yun yung minimum kapag descriptive, minimum of 100. Kapag correlational naman, at least of 50 is deemed necessary to establish the existence of a relationship. Since relationship hinahanap natin, at least of 50. Yun. And then for experimental studies, nire-recommend na minimum of 30 individuals per group. Sampling technique. So I want to show you the Slovin's formula. So there are various techniques in random sampling. Apply one that is best for your study and one that matches your sample size. The Slovin's formula is the most commonly used for computing large sample sizes with error balancing in consideration. So Slovin's formula ang ginagamit sa sampling technique natin. So ngayon papakita ko sa inyo kung paano ito i-solve. So this is the formula. Kita natin na sample size equals, paano natin makuha yung sample size? So equals the population, number of population divided by 1 plus the number of population again and the margin of error squared. Okay, so N stands for the sample size, and the capital N stands for the population. E stands for the margin of error in percentage. So for example, you are to take a sample from a group of employees. Yung employees natin, meron tayong population na 1,000, which had around 50 new hires and attrition. Resignation number combined. The margin of error here is 50, which is 5% of 1,000. So, yung 1,000, ang 5% niya ay 50 new hires. Okay, so, we have here N equals to 1,000. So, lagyan natin dito ng pen. Yan. So, eto, nakita natin na okay. So, 1,000. Itong 1,000 na to ang ating population. So, ayan, population natin. Divided by 1. Okay. So, plus 1,000. The population ulit. Yung 1,000, lagay natin dito. Ito yung ating population or yung N. Tapos, ang 0.05 ay yung percentage. Ito yung margin of error natin. Ang 5% ay equivalent sa 0.05. Okay, equivalent niya. So, ito yon yung ating margin of error. Kasi 5% lang kukunin natin dun sa 1,000. So, since ito ay squared, so dalawa ang ilalagay natin. So, times yan. And then next, okay, so the answer is 2.5 galing doon sa 1,000 times 0.5 squared. Okay, so 1 plus 2.5. And then we have to divide that. So 1,000 divided, I mean, ano muna tayo? 1 plus 2.5, so 3.25. So divide it to 285. Okay, so ang answer ay 285.75. And then, kailangan natin siyang i-round off para mas maging valid siya. So, meron tayong 286. So, ang kukunin nating sample doon sa employees na 1,000. That would be all today. Thank you and goodbye everyone. See you next meeting.